Spring is here, college baseball is in full swing, and the 2021 MLB season starts today, which means the offseason is officially over. It feels like I've been sitting here for an eternity waiting for some of the last few free agents to sign and extensions to be completed, but now that pretty much all of them have, we are back for another year here to cover everything from signings to trades to even front office changes to see how this offseason will affect the upcoming MLB season. Instead of doing my normal offseason grades, this year I'm going to mix it up a little bit and rank every MLB team's 2021 offseason from worst to best. Just to be clear, teams will be ranked and based on how they address their various needs based off their current direction, rather than ranking them based on who is in the best position to contend this season. Okay, on we pop. Number 30, the Colorado Rockies. For the third season in a row, the Rockies have had the worst offseason in the league, except this time, they managed to have a worse offseason than the last two combined. The Rockies trading away Nolan Arenado without receiving any current high-level prospects in return and giving up $50 million can only be described as a complete organizational failure. With Jeff Bidrich still in charge, there is no sign of positive change in sight, so hopefully Trevor Story is able to escape while he still can. I'm going to end up making a full video about the Rockies down the line, which, if you're new here, that usually isn't a good thing. Number 29, the Cincinnati Reds. It was pretty much expected that heading into the offseason, the Reds were going to end up losing their ace Trevor Bauer, so how did they respond? Well, pretty terribly. Closer Jose Iglesias was traded to the Angels to cut payroll, Archie Bradley was non-tendered, and to fill the hole at shortstop, they didn't add anyone in free agency. Instead, they traded for Kyle Holder and Mike Freeman. The only real addition the Reds made was signing left-handed reliever Sean Doolittle, but they still have a few holes that need to be filled heading into 2021. Number 28, the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are a team sort of in that limbo stage since most of their top prospects are in the lower level minors, but the only real notable moves the D-bats made this offseason was a few weeks ago when they signed Joakim Soria, Tyler Clippard, and Asdrubal Cabrera to one-year deals. I know that for Arizona there wasn't much to do this offseason, but was that really it? Well, at least they had a better offseason than another team in their division. Number 27, the Seattle Mariners. The biggest need for the Mariners heading into this offseason was to fix their cookie machine bullpen, and mission is maybe accomplished. Seattle was able to land Ken Giles on a 2-year deal as their new closer in 2022, since he will be out with Tommy John surgery, but the other additions to the bullpen include Kenyon Middleton, Rafael Montero, and Rule 5 pick Will Vest. The additions are a far cry from the bullpen overhaul that was expected, but hey, at least they got James Paxton back. Number 26, the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles did pretty much all they needed to this offseason, but that doesn't really mean much. They picked up Jose Iglesias' $3 million club option and then immediately traded him to the Angels, traded away Alex Cobb to the Angels for 23-year-old infielder Jahmai Jones, signed Freddie Galvis to now fill in for Jose Iglesias, signed Michael Franco to be their new third baseman, and then signed a few much-needed veteran starters to minor league deals including Felix Hernandez and Matt Harvey. It's almost time for Baltimore to start making some serious offseason moves again, but they're just not quite there yet. Number 25, the Oakland A's. It was a tough offseason for the A's, losing Marcus Semien, Liam Hendricks, Joakim Soria, Robbie Grossman, TJ McFarland, and Tommy La Stella in free agency. With the loss of Marcus Semien, the A's were in search for a shortstop, and they were able to fill that hole by trading away Chris Davis along with a few prospects to the Rangers for shortstop Elvis Andrus. Andrus will be looking for a bounce-back season following a rough 2020, but most importantly, with this trade, the A's will be able to clear up some salary. This salary was used to retain Yusmeiro Petit and Mike Fiers on the pitching staff, and also add to the bullpen with Sergio Romo and Trevor Rosenthal. Designated hitter / first baseman Mitch Moreland was signed to a 1-year deal as well to fill in for Chris Davis, and it was unfortunate the A's did have to lose so many pieces this year, but with their financial situation, they were able to do a pretty decent job. Number 24, the Miami Marlins. Miami now has a new great general manager in place with Kim Ng. However, the Marlins didn't capitalize on this offseason as much as they could have. They did sign Adam Duvall to try and address their outfield, but could have made a play for someone younger on the very active trade market. The bullpen does have some new faces, including Adam Simber, Dylan Floro, and Ross Detweiler, but their best move all offseason was signing the severely underrated Anthony Bass. Bass will likely take over as the Marlins' new closer, and ever since he joined the Mariners in 2019, he has proven to be an effective critical situation reliever. Number 23, the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland trading away Francisco Lindor seemed inevitable for years at this point, and they finally did it. While the return may not be as eye-popping as one would hope for giving up a star like Lindor, some of the prospects they did receive do come with a high upside. As for now, Eddie Rosario was brought in on a one-year deal and Cesar Hernandez was brought back on a one-year deal as well. Both are great members to have in the starting lineup, but the Indians better hope that their pitching can carry them extra hard if they have any hopes of being competitive. Number 22, the Texas Rangers. After their attempt to be competitive in 2020 failed miserably, the Rangers were able to make a few decent moves as they head towards a rebuild. With Isaiah Kiner-Falefa taking over at shortstop in 2021, being able to flip Elvis Andrus for Chris Davis, who himself could be a trade chip down the line, is a smart move. The pitching staff saw a few changes with Corey Kluber being traded to the Yankees, Lance Lynn being traded to the White Sox for two solid prospects, and the signing of Japanese right-hander Kohei Arihara. First baseman Nate Lowe was traded from the Rays for probably a little too much, but he will fill in a positionary need at first base. Number 21, the Boston Red Sox. The only reason the Red Sox were able to rank this high was due to their decision to bring back Alex Cora as their manager. Andrew Benintendi was really the only player worth trading away right now, but the return they got wasn't that great. The additions of outfielder Hunter Renfroe, utility man Kike Hernandez, utility man Marwin Gonzalez, and reliever Adam Ottavino via trade are mostly just fillers that can be used as possible trade chips down the line as the Red Sox continue their rebuild. Number 20, the Detroit Tigers. As is the standard at the bottom of the AL Central, the Tigers made a few minor additions, signing outfielder Robbie Grossman to a 2-year deal, starter Jose Urena on a 1-year deal, outfielder Nomar Mazara on a 1-year deal, catcher Wilson Ramos on a 1-year deal, and bringing back second baseman Jonathan Scope on a 1-year deal. The best move the Tigers did make this offseason wasn't a player, but rather bringing in former world champion AJ Hinch as their new manager. This, of course, is Hinch's first time managing after the whole Astros situation that led to his departure, but he is still a great choice to manage the young Tigers. Just make sure there aren't any trash cans near the dugout. Speaking of, number 19, the Houston Astros. As expected, the Astros weren't able to find the cash to be able to re-sign George Springer, with him being the first of the core group to leave in free agency. With Springer gone, Miles Straw looks to be the best option to play center, while the other outfield positions are filled out with some combination of Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, and the newly re-signed Michael Brantley. With the leftover cash, the Astros were able to land a new battery both on 2-year deals with starter Jake Odorizzi and catcher Jason Castro, while the bullpen saw a few new additions including Pedro Baez, Ryan Stanek, and Steve Cishek on a minor league deal. There's also the big news from this week with Houston extending starter Lance McCullers Jr. on a 5-year, $85 million deal. McCullers is still 27 and is coming off a solid 2020 after missing 2019 with Tommy John surgery, and it is good for the Astros to lock him up now to remain as one of their frontline starters for the next few seasons. Number 18, the Los Angeles Angels. Another offseason means another year of the Angels swinging and missing on signing a top free agent starting pitcher, and that's exactly what happened. The Angels were able to land former All-Star Jose Quintana and Alex Cobb, which should help the rotation, but they are still lacking a solidified ace. Just recently, though, there were a lot of new additions to the bullpen, acquiring Tony Watson, Noah Ramirez, Steve Cishek, James Hoyt, and Alex Claudio, along with the trade for Raisel Iglesias earlier in the offseason. Iglesias will be the new closer, and his time with the Reds proved he is one of the best in baseball, although it is important to note he is on the last year of his contract. To help fill out the roster, LA made a few depth moves, trading for outfielder Dexter Fowler and signing catcher Kurt Suzuki. With new GM Perry Minison at the helm, it was expected that the Angels were going to go all in to try and land another big free agent, but they probably did the right thing, waiting for some of their other contracts to come off the books. Number 17, the Chicago Cubs. Here I was thinking that the Cubs were going to spend at least a little bit of money for one last run before Bryant, Rizzo, Schwarber, and Baez become free agents, but Chicago decided to do the exact opposite. The decision to trade away Yu Darvish and Victor Caratini for a flurry of young, unproven prospects just highlighted the Cubs' unwillingness to spend in this market and seems like a soft start to the Cubs' long-rumored rebuild. With Darvish gone and Jed Hoyer taking over baseball operations for departing Theo Epstein, there are a lot of questions on what the future of baseball will look like in Chicago. For 2021 at least, the Cubs aren't completely throwing in the towel just yet. Yes, Kyle Schwarber was non-tendered to save some cash, but his replacement in Jock Peterson may end up being a better option, and Jake Marisnick will be joining him out near the Ivy as well. The pitching staff did see a few new additions, including Zach Davies as a part of the Darvish trade, Trevor Williams, Andrew Chafin, and a reunion with Jake Arrieta. Number 16, the Tampa Bay Rays. Fresh off their first deep playoff run in over a decade, the Rays decided to trade away one of their frontline starters and then let the other one go in free agency in probably the most Rays-type offseason ever. Now, trading away Blake Snell isn't as bad as a move as some people are making it out to be. I mean, his numbers have been a little up and down, and Luis Patino has the potential to be a future ace, but I still don't think that now was the time for the Rays to take their foot off the gas. This offseason, they were left with just re-signing catcher Mike Zunino and signing pitchers Michael Wacha, Rich Hill, Chaz Rowe, Colin McHugh, and former Ray Chris Archer to one-year deals to try and fill the holes in the rotation. And while all of the names listed are decent options, none of them are on the level of Snell or Charlie Morton, who will be greatly missed in the 2021 rotation. Number 15, the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers tried their best and failed at trying to lure Justin Turner to fill in the hole at third base. However, they did make a few nice moves to set themselves up for contention in 2021. Longtime division rival and Gold Glove winner Colton Wong was signed to a 2-year, $18 million deal to play second, as Keston Hiura will transfer over to first base. Jackie Bradley Jr. was the other bid signing for Milwaukee on a 2-year, $24 million deal and is expected to be rotated around the outfield with Garcia and Kane. At third base, however, there still isn't a definitive answer. Travis Shaw is back on a minor league deal after he was non-tendered by the Blue Jays, and Daniel Robertson is there to compete with him for the job. Number 14, the Pittsburgh Pirates. The ultimate tank is continuing its way through the Allegheny for at least another year. Josh Bell was sent to the Nationals, like I said they should do last October. Joe Musgrove was traded to the Padres, and Jamison Taillon is heading up to New York. In these trades, the Pirates weren't able to acquire any real top-of-the-line prospects. However, these trades do notably improve the depth of their farm system, especially right-hander Miguel Yajire and outfielder Hudson Head. The new additions, Trevor Cahill, Will Crowe, and the Todd Father, should help round out the roster as the Pirates shoot for 0-162. Number 13, the San Francisco Giants. For the Giants, this offseason was basically a prep before their payroll clears up so they can chase after the top free agents next offseason. Infielder Tommy La Stella was the most notable move the Giants made this offseason, and he will fit perfectly into the lineup as a lefty who can move around the infield. Starter Kevin Gausman is back on a qualifying offer, which is pricey but affordable for the Giants, and joining him in the rotation will be Alex Wood, Anthony DeScalfani, and former All-Star Aaron Sanchez. A few other notable moves include the signing of Kurt Casale as a more sustainable backup catcher, trading right-handed pitcher Sean Anderson for a young outfield option in Lamonte Wade Jr., and signing reliever Jose Alvarez. This isn't the kind of offseason that is going to make a lot of headlines, but the Giants got done what they needed to in order to be somewhat competitive in 2021 and be ready to go for next season. Number 12, the Kansas City Royals. The Royals haven't gotten much attention this winter, but they have quietly had a very good offseason. They were able to take advantage of the wheat trade market and bring in Andrew Benintendi, a reliable lefty bat who still hasn't reached his prime. Other additions include possible bounce-back candidate Mike Minor and first baseman/DH Carlos Santana, who were both signed to 2-year deals, center fielders Michael A. Taylor and Gerard Dyson, who were signed to 1-year deals, and old friends Greg Holland and Wade Davis are back on 1-year deals as well. Minor and Holland can be possible trade chips down the line, and Santana will fill in the need of a middle-of-the-order power bat. But the biggest move the Royals made this offseason actually happened this week, deciding to extend catcher Salvador Perez to the largest contract in club history. It is the Royals we're talking about here, so the contract isn't too crazy, and while Perez is about to be 31 with quite the injury history, he was able to prove in 2020 that he is still one of the best catchers in the game. Locking up Perez for the next few seasons wasn't only the right thing to do, but it shouldn't put a wrench at any future spending plans the Royals may have. Number 11, the Philadelphia Phillies. After failing to make the playoffs in the last 2 seasons when they were supposed to be competitive, it was clear that the Phillies needed to make some changes. Matt Klentak, air quotes, stepped down as general manager, so John Middleton decided to bring in Dave Dombrowski as the new president of baseball operations. Dombrowski has taken multiple teams to the World Series and has a great track record, but there are still questions on what type of project he will be taking on in Philadelphia due to past management's inability to build a sustainable winner. When Dombrowski was brought in though, the Phillies immediately became more aggressive, re-signing Didi Gregorius on a 2-year deal and making the plunge to bring back JT Realmuto. Realmuto was re-signed to the largest free agent contract ever signed by a catcher at 5 years, $115 million, a steal compared to what he would have gotten in a normal offseason. The pitching staff was the other major need that the Phillies needed to address, and with the resources they they did a pretty good job. Matt Moore, Chase Anderson, and Archie Bradley were signed to 1-year deals, Jose Alvarado and Sam Coonrod were acquired via trade, and Brandon Kinsler and Tony Watson were signed on minor league deals. Number 10, the Washington Nationals. The Nationals not only accomplished their offseason goal of getting a middle-of-the-order power bat, but they doubled up and decided to get 2 of them instead. After being non-tendered by the Cubs due to budgetary constraints, the Nats picked up Kyle Schwarber on a 1-year deal to be their new left fielder and provide some more pop in the order. But the best move the Nationals made was trading for first baseman Josh Bell in exchange for some expendable prospects. Bell will need some adjustments to his swing to return to his all-star form, but Washington may be the place for him to find success in doing so. On the pitching side of things, Brad Hand was signed to a 1-year deal and should be spotted at the back end of the bullpen, and lefty John Lester was signed as a veteran back-end starter. Number 9, the Minnesota Twins. The Twins didn't really do much of anything until pretty late in the offseason, but they still found a way to make their impact. The boomstick Nelson Cruz is back for at least another year on a $13 million deal, and joining him on 1-year deals will be pitchers AJ Happ, Alex Colome, Matt Shoemaker, Hansel Robles, and shortstop Andrelton Simmons. Simmons and Colome are the most notable out of the bunch, with Colome set to be the new closer and Simmons being one of the best defensive shortstops of all time. The only real question remaining for the Twins is in left field. Eddie Rosario was non-tendered at the start of the offseason, leaving top prospect Alex Kirilloff as his hopeful replacement, which we saw how that went. Number 8, the New York Yankees. It shouldn't come as a surprise that the Yankees were able to complete their offseason long chase to re-sign DJ LeMahieu. It did take a $90 million contract over 6 years to bring LeMahieu back to the Bronx, but at least the salary will be spread out when he reaches his mid to late 30s. There are a few other risks that Brian Cashman decided to take, that being Corey Kluber and Jameson Taillon. Both Taillon and Kluber have proven they have the stuff to be elite level major league starters, but they are also both coming off of season-ending arm injuries. There will be some additional depth on the pitching staff with the return of Domingo Germán and the signings of Justin Wilson and Darren O'Day on 1-year deals. Oh yeah, and Brett Gardner is back on a 1-year deal as well, so good job, New York. Number 7, the Chicago White Sox. Overall, the White Sox ended up having another good offseason, especially when it comes to player acquisition. They secured their closer for the future in Liam Hendricks on an affordable overpay, traded for starter Lance Lynn in exchange for some expendable prospects, and brought back Carlos Rendon on a one-year deal. The only real questionable move was firing AL Manager of the Year candidate Rick Renteria in favor of bringing back an old homie of owner Jerry Reinsdorf. Renteria did have his problems towards the end of the 2020 season, but was bringing in 76-year-old Tony La Russa out of retirement really the best option? It's something we're gonna have to wait and see play out, but there are certainly a lot of doubts on how La Russa will adjust to managing in a new era, especially with a young team like the White Sox. Number 6, the Atlanta Braves. With it starting to look like Mike Soroka won't be able to return until later in the season, the Braves were aggressive in adding some new arms into the rotation. Free agents Charlie Morton and Drew Smyly were both signed to, surprise, one-year deals, and they will provide Atlanta with veteran experience and the necessary rotation depth to last them throughout the season. The big surprise for the Braves was deciding to bring back Marcell Ozuna. Ozuna signed a $65 million 4-year deal, and unfortunately he will have to play in left as there will be no DH in the National League in 2021. The bullpen did take a few hits with Mark Melancon heading back to California, and Shane Green somehow still being a free agent at the time of this recording. Can somebody please sign the Shane? Number 5, the St. Louis Cardinals. It's kind of strange that the Cardinals haven't been put in jail yet with the absolute robbery they committed in broad daylight against the Colorado Rockies. Nolan Arenado is arguably the best third baseman in baseball right now, and the Cardinals were able to get him for a price that seems impossible still even to this day. I mean, when you're talking about Arenado, you're talking about a guy who will provide Gold Glove caliber defense at the hot corner, along with a 40-homer capable bat that St. Louis have been looking for since the start of the offseason. This was really the only vital move the Cardinals made this year, but when you're able to pull off something of this caliber in the way that they did it, you can't really expect much else. Welcoming Arenado in St. Louis, however, will be franchise icons Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright, who are back on one-year deals. Number 4, the Toronto Blue Jays. Heading north of the border, the Blue Jays were set to make a big splash this offseason, and that's exactly what they did. The signing of George Springer to the largest contract in franchise history is not only a big deal since Toronto isn't normally a destination for top free agents, but this man is exactly who the Blue Jays needed. Springer is a proven veteran with postseason experience, and he is still an elite level center fielder with a dangerous bat at the top of the lineup. Which, speaking of the lineup, Toronto was able to make it even better by signing middle infielder Marcus Semien. Semien did sign a one-year deal and is coming off a down year following a stellar 2019, but now that he's healthy, there is hope that he can return to his old form. On the pitching side of things, the bullpen saw a few new additions in Kirby Yates, Tyler Chatwood, and David Phelps on short, low-risk deals. In the rotation, the Jays did re-sign Robbie Ray on a one-year deal and traded for Mets starter Steven Matz, but they will still need to add a top end of the rotation starter sometime soon to be in the running for a World Series title. Number 3, the New York Mets. Yes, the Mets were able to get Francisco Lindor this offseason, which we will get to in a second, but by far the biggest W the Mets took this year was having Steve Cohen as their new owner. No longer will one of the most highly valued franchises in the league be held at bay by an ownership group that is complacent with being mediocre. As soon as Steve Cohen took over the team, he immediately cleaned house and brought in Jared Porter as the new GM. Yikes, who was immediately replaced by Zach Scott, who wasted no time in taking advantage of a weak market. Marcus Stroman is back on a qualifying offer. Catcher James McCann agreed to a 4-year deal worth about $10 million a year. Taijuan Walker agreed to a deal along with Trevor May, Kevin Pillar, Aaron Loop, Albert Almora Jr., Jose Martinez, Sam McWilliams, and Jonathan Villar. They traded for young starters in Joey Lucchesi and Jordan Yamamoto, and to top it all off, they got Francisco Lindor. Lindor, along with Carlos Carrasco, are now members of the New York Mets in a deal where the Mets didn't have to give up any of their top prospects. And late last night, we got the news that Francisco Lindor agreed to a 10-year, $341 million extension, securing his place as a New York Met for the rest of his career. Number 2, the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Death Star has officially relocated to Vin Scully Avenue in Los Angeles. In a Kevin Durant-like move, the defending champs were able to land the best player on the free agent market to form a super rotation that now includes 3 former Cy Young Award winners and Walker Buehler. The signing of Trevor Bauer does raise some questions about the Dodgers payroll because he's making more this season than 3 different teams, but at this point, what does it matter since they were still able to re-sign Justin Turner? Not to mention, they were also able to land Corey Knebel, Tommy Kahnle, and re-sign Blake Treinen. Might as well get ready for our NLCS matchup at this point because number 1 is the San Diego Padres. The Padres once again winning the offseason should actually translate onto the field this time. AJ Preller was able to use his magic to trade for 2 ace-level pitchers while only giving up 1 of the Padres' top 5 prospects. Preller was also able to add a few depth pieces with very high upside by trading for starter Joe Musgrove and signing Korean infielder Hae-Sung Kim. I made a whole video about the Padres' moves at the end of December, so I won't go too in depth here, but in that video I did mention the Padres having some leftover cash which they used to sign Mark Melancon and Colon Kella to the back of their bullpen and re-sign Jurickson Profar on a 3-year deal. Oh, and to top it all off, because why not at this point, AJ Preller was able to lock in Fernando Tatis Jr. to a 14-year, $340 million extension, the 3rd largest in MLB history. Safe to say, the Padres are going to be sticking around. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We got new content dropping all season and all summer long. I will have a new video dropping within the next few weeks, so make sure you look out for that. But other than that, thanks again, everybody, and I will see you all soon. I don't want it. Are we there yet? I say, are we there yet? I done gave all of my time. Gotta wait upon the